Inside Notes with Rob Miller. This
Round
is
two.
Part 2.
Round 2.
With
What's
Reggie Bernard.
We doing it again.
We did it again.
Yes, sir.
So we had a good conversation.
We did.
The first time. We can actually continue because we could talk about musicians and church situations forever.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That could go on
All
forever.
day.
Right?
Yeah.
But so I have been thinking about the atmosphere in church, different church situations, how it affects the whole service, and how it affects the band members or praise teams or choirs or whatever you have. How I don't think we pay enough. We meaning on the gospel side. I don't think we pay enough attention to the journey to get to the service. The rehearsal time and the communication that has to go on. I don't think we pay attention to how that affects the end product. I guess, right? Because it matters to me. The older I get, I guess it matters more that I like who I'm playing with,
right?
Who I'm playing for. That we get
Absolutely.
along. Our conversations are positive. Not that not to be phony, but it's just when it's not enjoyable in that journey to that service, then to me it feels like a waste of time.
That's one, because you are the professor, and at this point, like, there has to be respect on your name. And I'm not like trying to gas you up, but what it is when you become established, then you get to a place where you are no longer taking gigs out of necessity. And so there are other criteria that have to filter into your yes and your no. And at this point, because you established, it's like, I don't care how much you paying. If the gig is going to be trash, then I can recommend you to somebody else. But I just as well sit at home and watch something on TV.
Right.
Because me now, my nothing to do is still something to do. So if I tell you I'm busy, and that means I'm sitting on the couch like Al Bundy with my hand in my pants watching SportsCenter,
right,
then that's something to do for me. Unless the value in totality, meaning the gig, the ambiance, the people I'm playing with, the set list, all of that, unless that is something that's acceptable for me, I'm good. Because at the end of the day, remember, you called me.
Right. Right.
I didn't go on Band Mix
right,
looking for a gig. You called me. And I know that sounds arrogant, but at the end of the day, when you get to our age with our resumes, you have to get to a place where I should have the ability to choose what I want to play, with whom I want to play with, and when I want to play, because it's no longer out of necessity. I'll tell you this story. I am going to use names. Some names.
Here we go.
So,
Let's go.
Here we go. So my first project, shout out to the legend, to the GOAT, Buddy Strong. Reached out to him because he's my brother and he's the GOAT. But it was a mix of, I had a idea with Project Heal. I brought it to him and I was passionate about the concept. So when I brought it to him, because he was the one that had spent time out of his schedule to help rebuild me after the stroke, I knew that he was also passionate about the process. So I hit him up. I'm like, here's what I want to do. He was like, that's dope. I'm in. And as soon as he said it, I was like, this is going to be crazy because it's Buddy, right?
Yeah.
And then he shared with me later that someone who I won't name, someone hit him up, was like, man, I can't believe you're doing his project and you won't do mine. And he was like, the simple fact that you brought this up about me having to be obligated to do yours over his is exactly why I'm doing his project and I'm not doing yours.
Right.
Do you know who I am? Like, I do have the right to pick and choose what I do.
Yeah.
And the crazy thing is, he wound up not being on the project in person because he wound up getting the Grande gig.
Wow.
And so we had the whole conversation. He was super apologetic. And I was like, I know it's a crapshoot because it's Buddy, right?
Yeah.
Like, I knew he was going to be in high demand.
Yeah.
But that dude, because of the relationship, was building my tracks while he was on the road, sending me Dropbox files while he was on the road.
Wow.
That's passion.
Right. Yeah.
That's compassion. And so when he was like, yo, I'm going to give you like what you gave me back, a little bit of what you gave me back, like, this is a friendship where I dropped off a check and Christmas presents on his front door just to make sure that the business side was taken care of. The brotherhood's always going to be there, but I never want the people that I love to feel like I'm taking advantage of them. Whereas we get phone calls from people all the time where it's like, nah, I already know from up front, you want me for a transactional relationship.
Yeah.
I'm too old for that.
Yeah.
Like, if we're not doing life, then red, swipe left.
Right.
I'm good.
Right.
You feel me?
Yeah. So, buddy, yeah. You know, when I first moved here in 2005, right? Just now switching to the sync music thing, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, I was told by somebody from Warner Brothers, one of the supervisors from Warner Brothers, because this is pre social media, the social media that we know now, right? So it's a little bit harder to reach people, right?
The MySpace years.
Yeah, MySpace, exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
So, you know, the guy goes, hey, you know, Rod, you just moved to Phoenix. So I'm sure, you know, there's a lot more talent there you can, you know, reach out to and get more guys. Because he said, we got all the Hollywood guys here. So reach out to some, you know, Phoenix people and get a team together. And, you know, you guys will have it made, basically, right? So I did some research and I found out that this was sort of Buddy's town, right? So I said, okay, well, maybe if I reach out to him, right? Yeah. Then I can get him, I get a bunch of people on. Cause what I'm trying to do is build this big thing so we could, because I knew what was coming. I knew that I was about to kind of take over the sync game as far as that company, because they said, well, just get some guys, right?
Yeah.
So I reached out to him. Over MySpace, right? And he says, yeah, well, I'm on the road a lot. I don't think I have time to really do this kind of stuff. I said, it's not like you have to, you know, quit doing whatever else. No, you have. You can, like you just said, he was doing tracks on the road. You can do, you know, tracks on the road. I was trying to explain to him, you know, you just get in this. What I'm trying to do is get him, because I knew if I got him,
it's over with.
The rest will follow, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So it didn't work out with him, and that was okay. But I never even met him. It wasn't until a while later that I actually met him in person. But I actually reached out to pretty much everybody here in this city about getting into sync. Remember, but at that time, there was the term sync licensing didn't exist. Nobody even knew what this was.
Yeah,
all they had was this guy who just moved from LA that they don't really know, telling them, hey, give me some music and I get it on TV for you, right?
Right.
So and I'm not a flashy person, so they didn't
absolutely not.
They probably didn't think I was doing anything worthwhile. I guess,
they're lost.
Right? I said, hey, I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Get into this stuff, because you guys have talent, and I see you just running around from church to church. You know, you making your $50, your $100 here and there. I'm trying to.
You like the musical version of Bitcoin.
I was early, right? Ahead of the game. Yes, I tried to get people into it. I dealt with some people. I met one guy through a studio here in town. I was trying to put a group, not put a group together, but find a group. Warner Brothers had told me, hey, if you get a group, we'll produce them. We'll bring them here. We'll record their album here at Warner Brothers. Just find us a group, right? I said, okay. Found the group, right? It was a girls group, and their dad was their manager, right? So we had our first meeting.
Number one.
Yeah, exactly. First meeting was here at the house, right? So I'm not like, you're going to think I'm exaggerating. I'm not exaggerating. This is word for word. They come in the house, and the dad, we go into the kitchen area, and the dad, he looks around. This your house? I said, yeah.
You thought you Airbnb'd it?
And look, I'm not, this is no exaggeration. This your house? Like, God. Yeah. Yeah, our house is kind of like this, but our kitchen's way bigger than this, though. Word for word.
I swear. A rose on your nose.
So that's what I was like, okay, yeah, I'm in a different place. This is really different. Like, how do I handle this? I wanted to like cuss the guy out, just kind of go crazy on him. But I was like, nah, let me just keep my mouth shut and just kind of deal with it. So we have the whole conversation. In the back of my mind, I'm thinking, yeah, forget you and your group, because, you know, you on something else. You on some wild stuff, right?
I'm not going to say it on camera, but I think I know who you're talking about. Keep going.
You might. I don't know. But, so yeah, just trying to get people into this thing has been not easy. Because I figured, you know, because everybody I know is a church musician. We're all wildly talented, right? This would be easy for them. I don't know, but they were also into, I think, being on stage and being either the glamour side of the business. Where I was thinking long term. I was thinking, well, what happens when you're 45 or 50?
Bingo.
You're not gonna be running around on stage.
No.
So what do, right? It was a career. And
you thinking long bread. And they thinking instant gratification.
They thinking next week. How much can I get?
Now we about
week?
to get deep. You ready?
Let's go.
We about to get deep.
Let's go.
All right. So here's the thing. When it comes to our church, when it comes to our culture, we have been born and bred in instant gratification. We've been born and bred in spontaneity. We've been born and bred in spontaneous emotional response. And that's where it is. We were trained that if we shout that day, we had church.
It's a success.
It's a success. We could have came in. I say it all the time. We could have came in late, drunk, and out of somebody's hotel room. But as long as they shouted, that was our validation, which means I cannot wait 3-5 years later to see how many streams I got or what license I got on whatever TV show
right.
to validate my success.
Right.
I want it right now, which is why we sing them songs
with
Byron Cage. And I'm going to get my blessing right now.
Right now.
Not down the road. Which is why our folk don't want to get the annual annuity. We want the lump sum because we want it right now. Shout out to all the lottery players out there. That's going to get comments too. Anyway, that's how we were raised in the church. We were raised because we needed to have that spontaneous emotional response. I say this all the time. If it weren't for black people, social media would take such a hit because we are the ones that keep it going.
We drive everything.
We drive it all because we're the ones that need to have our opinion validated right then, right there. We're the ones that want to clap back in the comments for somebody, and we're the ones that need to have that instantaneous response or interaction with somebody.
Right.
I mean, you saw the last one. Dude jumped in the comments quick.
Right. Couldn't wait to find something to be mad about.
Could not wait.
Yeah.
Didn't follow neither one of us. Right. I don't even know how he found us.
I have no idea either.
Which meant he was like a hockey player on the ice without a stick, just looking for a fight.
Right.
And he got one though.
Yeah, he got handled.
Yeah, he got handled. Yeah, he got the fight. I don't know if he wanted that fight, but he sure got it.
Right.
Yeah, we want to skip the flight and get to the destination.
Yep.
And it is there's so many different examples. The church wants to skip the process and go from the house to the mega church.
Yeah.
They don't want to have the time where you're in the high school gym. They don't want to have the time where you're growing and you got to have the small building, in the bad neighborhood with poor real estate values. They don't want it. They want to go from again, the living room all the way to the 5,000 seater.
Right.
We got to go from streaming with just your family to TD Jakes like overnight.
Yeah.
And that does not happen.
Right.
Everything is a process. We want to skip the process.
Inside notes. Inside notes. Inside notes.
So back when I was going to, I went to MI years ago, right? As a drummer. I'm not even playing keys yet, though, right?
Okay.
So I'm going to MI, and there was a studio. This in Hollywood, of course. There's a studio on Hollywood Boulevard. It's another story. We'll talk about later how I know the studio. But when I would have a break from school, I would go to the studio, and just because the guy knew me, he said, "Hey, come on, Ron, come in." I'm a kid. I'm 19 or 20 or whatever at the time, right? So the guy, he went to a church called Maranatha. It was in LA, right?
I know the church. Yes.
So one night he said, "Hey, can you give me a ride? I don't have my car. Can you give me a ride to my rehearsal?" Right? From Hollywood to Maranatha. It wasn't up the street. And I lived in Carson, so I was kind of going.
You lived in Carson?
Yes, I was kind of going the other way.
Yeah, that ain't the same way, bro.
I could have said, nah, but I can't do it.
Catch a cab.
I said, I'll give you a ride, right? Mm-hmm. Gave him a ride to the rehearsal. So now we're in the rehearsal. It was a big church, right? I'm thinking, this is kind of cool. Right? My church wasn't big like that. So I'm liking it, right? He's playing drums, and I'm just sitting there watching him play. He introduced me to everybody. I'm the kid. I get a nickname everywhere I go. So I'm the kid, right? This kid. So one day I go.
You're going from the kid to the professor.
To the professor. I'm the bishop. I'm this. And I got all kind of crazy nicknames, right?
Yeah.
So I end up going to their rehearsal on a regular basis. Even when he's not there, I just show up to their rehearsal just because I like their band. I just like watching how they did things, right? So I'm standing at this rehearsal. I'm just there hanging out. And I knew who everybody was. I was paying attention. One night, I wasn't even going here in the story, but one night at the rehearsal, it was a lady in the choir. She said, "Hey, she's a casting director or something for something that was coming up. We're doing a movie, and we need some extras to be in this movie, right?" somebody said, ask the kid. The kid might be able to do it. Hey, you want to be in a movie? I'm like, yeah.
Sure.
Sure. All right. Well, I got nothing else
Right.
to do, right? So I'm extra. I go to be an extra in the movie. I'm supposed to be an extra. I'm supposed to be in the crowd in one of the scenes in the 5 Heartbeats. I end up being in the band in the 5 Heartbeats movie. So that just happened just because I'm just at this rehearsal and because the guy asked me to give him a ride. I just happened to be there, right? But beyond that, years later, their bass player, I remembered their bass player, right? His name was Derek. My bass player, this is maybe, let's see, almost 10 years later, my bass player, now I'm playing keys and stuff, and my bass player has to be out for a week. So I have a replacement that's going to come through, right? The guy that came was the guy from Maranatha from years earlier, right? He didn't know me. He didn't remember me.
World.
But I remember him, right?
remember him.
I said, I know you, Derek. He said, you do? I said, yeah. You from Maranatha? You used to play a gold 6-string bass. You went to DeVry in Arizona. He said, how do you know all that about me? I said, I used to just sit there and listen to you guys talk. I knew everything. It's like I knew everything because I was just sitting there listening, right? So he was like, oh, man, that's cool. So he did the gig at the church. That was the end of it. Months later, he's now at another church. He needs somebody at his church to come play organ. So he asked me to come play organ. Now playing at his church, right? Filling in for somebody or whatever. And in passing conversation with one of the choir members there, a guy goes, I gotta get out of here. This is at night, right? I gotta get out of here. I gotta be at work at 4:00 in the morning. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, man, what kind of work do you do? You gotta be at work at 4:00 in the morning, right? Guy goes, I work for Extra. It's my job to choose the music that they put on the shows every day for Extra. I had that same look you had as the look I had on my family. You serious? He's like, yeah, in fact, if we got, you got some music, bring some up to the studio and we'll see what we can do.
That's the birth of a legend.
So I put some music on a CD. Remember the old school days? Got the black Sharpie out. Put the name Rob's Tracks. Took it up to the studio. He popped it in. He's like, oh yeah, this is cool. Let's go upstairs. We're at Warner Brothers, right? So we go up. He said, let's go upstairs to the big man. So we go upstairs. The big man puts it in his player.
To the suits.
The suits put it in. Listen to it. Like, it's your stuff. Like, yeah, it's my stuff. Like, yeah. Can you keep producing this stuff on a regular basis? I said, yeah. For Warner Brothers, yes, I can. And now here we are. This is what, in fact, I just made 20 years in February. 20 years I've been doing it. It all happened because the guy asked me for a ride to his rehearsal. And I said, yeah, I give you a ride. And then the people that at that rehearsal, they all kind of, they took a liking to me because I was, a nice kid. I would go and show up and play drums at the rehearsal and stuff. Just, treat people nice and stuff.
That's wild.
So, yeah, being at the right place at the right time and treating people the way you want to be treated, it goes a long way. I could have said, well, you going to pay me to play for your rehearsal?
Right.
But no, just,
My father said a long time ago, man, wherever you go, you got to act like you've been there before.
Wow.
And I'm only saying that because it goes back to what I was saying about our culture and that need to have our ego stroked at all times. Even the pastors, they get up and they preach, and when the room is quiet, they just automatically assume that they are not preaching effectively. Mm-hmm. So you take that same concept, you take it over to a white church where they don't say nothing the whole time.
Right.
Matter of fact, when someone does say something, they look at them like, hey, can you sit down and be quiet? Like, you're being a distraction.
Yeah.
The cultures are different. If a black preacher went to like a Palm Valley or CCV with that type of attitude, and they were like, why is he hollering so much? Why does he keep asking me to talk back? This is a church. We're supposed to be quiet. But we need that validation. What does Pastor say all the time? Y'all can't hear me. Hello, walls.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
Because you're not responding enough.
Because they need that instant gratification in the spiritual atmosphere, as if doing what you're doing for God is not enough. Which, now we're about to get deep. Now, that is where we have to start questioning our heart posture before we walk out on stage. Because if we need to have our ego stroked by someone coming up to us and validating what we did on stage, then that means that we went out there for them and not for him.
Yeah. Right.
And eventually, he's going to get enough of that, which is why you start to see all of these other situations. Yeah, I'm going here now. And the other thing when it comes to that is the church, especially our church in general, we have to look from the top down and not from the bottom up And we have to understand where we're compromising our integrity for that reason, because we will let that instant gratification fuel us into making decisions that really, really, I think, are misguided, and they're blinding our integrity. You mean to tell me that your gay choir director, who's been directing the choir for 2 years, you did not know he was gay? Come on, please. It did not take you seeing him in a bar with a female business suit and high heels to understand that he was flaming when he was directing the choir. You knew he was gay from jump.
They already
But
knew.
when he started to damage your brand because it got out, now you have to do something about it.
Wow. Deep.
You know what?
Good, go ahead.
We
Go.
here. We here now. That is what has bothered me, because we as a culture, we don't understand how mutually benefiting, or in this case, mutually damaging that is. Because like we just talked about up front, we don't understand that we're building and breeding a new generation that is basing their success off of that same concept. And the thing is, now you have a new generation of musicians who do not think that they need to live right, because if they're dope enough, the church will excuse the behavior that I am sure they're aware of, for the sake of saying, we got the coldest band, the coldest musicians, we got the best singers, we got the best music corps at our church. It puts butts in seats, it puts dollars in buckets, and we can live with the fact that it's not out, like publicly, that they're not living right, but they know. And see, the thing is, when you sign contracts, like at my church, we have a moral clause in our contract.
Really?
Yeah. And so when that moral clause is broken, there are consequences.
So, okay, so here's a question on that. Is that just for the people on staff, or is it for the contract people too?
Our volunteer commitment forms have a moral clause.
For volunteers too? Really?
Yes. Now, I get to whom much is given, much is required. And so the moral clause is universal for all people who serve. Now, the consequences for those who are not operating that are obviously different. Like, as a volunteer, you can be talked to, you can be coached, you can be prayed for, you can be mentored. And in some cases, you can be sat down. But as a leader, and you're supposed to know better, you can be fired.
Right. Right.
If you out there wilding.
Right.
And you know better.
Yeah.
Because, again, part of it is it damages the brand. And that's the problem. We're still not looking at it from a shepherding heart posture. We're looking at it from if this dude or this lady is out in public wilding out, then we say subconsciously, what kind of church would allow this behavior to be permissible that now conflicts with my moral compass, and I would rather go to another church that upholds moral values.
What if the wilding out is something done in private?
Most of the time,
I don't know an example.
I can't say. I mean, I can. I can't say it's all, because there's never an all. There's never an all. There's always a one-off in any situation.
Yeah.
But a lot of times, even when it's done in private, you know for a fact. Look at all these pastors who have now been sat down for stuff that they did 20 years ago, 10 years ago. So even when it's done in private, it's only when it starts to impact the brand because of the threat of it going public that they have to do something about it. So why is it that Tony Evans had to step down now for something he did or didn't do or whatever, like 2 decades ago?
Yeah.
It's not like he did it yesterday.
Right.
It happened a long time ago, but now, because we're in cancel culture society, and now when you say the wrong thing or you do the wrong thing, they will pull your card.
Right.
Now it's like, not only are you damaging the brand, but you are also damaging the bottom line. Because we are post-COVID, and people have the option not only to go somewhere else physically, but virtually, which means they can pay virtually to someone else.
Yeah.
You can now sow your money into another ministry very easily by going to www.givemeyourmoneychurch.com.
Right.
Whereas back in the day, you had to physically go to church and put your money or mail a check.
Yeah.
Not anymore.
It's a lot easier now, for sure.
Not anymore.
Right.
CCV got people giving all over the world on direct deposit. It's coming right out of their paycheck. And they live in Uganda.
So are we at a place now, because we've had conversations at the church I'm working with right now on the importance of the social media presentation of the church, right? So are we at a point to where it's becoming more important than the people in that room? Are we now focusing more on what's being presented online versus the people in the room?
In some cases, yes.
And
Not in all.
should they pay more to? Because if you have 100 people in your church, but you routinely have 700 watching your live stream, you know what I mean? Who you pay more attention to?
My church right now, I believe, is about equal. I think we have just as many people watching online as we do physically in the church.
Over all 3 services, really?
Yeah, like if we're at 2,000, 1,000 is in person and another 1,000 is watching online.
Really?
I know there's some other churches, Elevation, I'm sure. I mean, they have a pretty big church.
Yeah.
They've got multiple campuses in North Carolina, but I'm sure their online presence is crazy.
Yeah.
And so when you get to those churches, I hate to keep using them as an example, but CCV is another one where they've invested a whole lot of money in their presentation.
Really?
They got boom cameras and they got cinematic cameras. This cat's on stage with the like waist attachment and stuff.
Yeah.
Last time I played there at the Peoria campus, I was playing something. Dude kind of snuck behind me like Spider-Man. You can actually see me jump because I didn't know he was there. Like they zoomed in on my fingers and you can see me like my fingers like actually like jolt. I jumped. I didn't know he was there. And then you look around and the budget that they have to broadcast online and then to have a whole team that will evaluate. Even we do it. Like we have contracted you we have to evaluate which service is right for the editing.
Right.
Now I can't do this one because my zipper was down, or I can't do this one because I cracked in the second verse.
Right.
And so we spent a lot of our bandwidth now on the presentation for that reason, because now you can broach thousands and thousands of people to buy into your ministry without having to worry about them physically being there.
Well,
we got to do better.
You did it again. You came with some gems again.
Yeah, man. It's a pleasure. You know what we got to do? We should just have like a separate Inside Notes with just us. Just like once a week, we just got to get together and just like the Rob and Reg Inside Notes. And then you can have all your special guests on top of that.
We gotta do something. We gotta do something on a regular basis.
Yeah, man, we do this every week. It's always a pleasure, man.
Appreciate it, Reg.
Yeah, always.
Inside Notes.
Yeah. Go easy on us on the comments, please. God bless you.